in my field where I'm doing tactical counterintelligence, there's really three main disciplines. You're either an analyst, a person who runs operations, or you're a person like me who goes into the field. All of these jobs are essential, right? The field job is the sexiest job, but it's also the hardest, dangerous, most dangerous. It's the dirtiest. It's just, it's rough. But everybody wants, but not everybody can do it because you have to have the right kind of physicality, the right kind of personality, and you have to master a lot of things with very little input or guidance, right?
Did you have a license to kill? Did you have a license to kill like James Bond?
I mean, I was in the Army. I was with the Army, right? People got killed. I mean, all those people, like it was a war. And so, yeah, people, I mean, I had rules of engagement for when I could kill someone, right? So if you think of that as a license, yeah, you have a license to kill. Make sure that you don't just shoot someone, elevate the risk until you have to shoot them. But yeah, that's a license to kill. Is there any other way to explain that if you're in combat?
I mean, if it's your life is on the line, I guess not. You just need to protect yourself at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here, okay, so here's a little bit of a misnomer. And in this scenario, because another scenario and other things, though I have this, we'll call it a license to kill. If I start killing people, I am not going to be a good member of my network. When you kill people and you have a network and you're trying to build trust, killing people is a cost, right? So maybe you get away with it once. Oh, it's a dangerous place. If I kill 5 people, if I get into a giant shootout, if I start driving my car through town like a maniac escaping the police, my level of being able to operate in that area is compromised. So I have to find different techniques to remain evasive, to protect myself, to protect the people I'm working with, because they're relying on me to be an agent for them, to protect them, to help them. And if I am, it's like back when I used to bounce in bars, right? I was trained by a guy and he's like, if there's, if there's fights in this bar, you aren't doing your job because you're now working in a bar that fights and people don't fight in this bar. That's why we're here, to make sure that people don't fight in this bar. So how we're going to handle this is that people aren't going to fight in this bar. We're going to be there before it starts. We're going to de-escalate it. And when it does happen, we're going to turn it off fast and get everybody back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, drinking, dancing, having a good time, chasing women. That's what we do. So same thing in the spy world is you can't, if you're the kind of spy that kills people regularly, well, then you are going to have a very hard time operating in real life because you're someone who takes life. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but that's the real world. You just can't go blow up a building and fix your tie and walk away. That's not how the real world works. You're going to have consequences, and nobody above you in the chain is going to take the ass chewing that comes with you blowing up a city block. You thought a good idea was to blow this city block up. Why didn't you just leave? And it's like, oh yeah, I probably should have just left, right? So the movies are different in that regard. They're sensational. There's, cataclysm and all these kind of things. The way I do it, the actual job, I would never want that. I want to be, hey, there's Pete over there. That's a good dude. I see him over there having coffee with, oh, that's Bob he's talking to. And I want that to be the most normal thing in the world. I don't want to be invisible. I want to be known. And I want to look like the normalest guy ever. And wherever they talk about me, they're talking about the same version of me, because I don't want them to go, wait, he didn't tell me that. He told me the opposite. He said that. I don't want that. I want everybody to know who they're meeting, why they're meeting me, what kind of guy I am. And wherever I go, they meet the same person.
The impression that I'm getting is that real life spy is much more about getting information and being sociable and being known, rather than saving the world against evil organizations who are trying to explode everything.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, and obviously there's a lot of scenarios where that won't be the case, and my style won't be the style, right? But that is what I did, and even to go further, I want to find the warlords. I want to find the corrupt politicians, and I want to make them my friends, and I want them to adore me, and I want to adore them, because it has to be genuine. And I want to learn all about what their life is like so that I can help predict what might happen next. I have 4 functions that I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to help my commander win more. and lose less. I'm trying to help the enemy lose more and win less. And if I can put that all into the same operation where I accomplish each one of those tasks, then that's a really powerful element that I've done. And so if that means that I'm going to go cozy up with the warlord and I'm going to ignore a lot of illegality because I need to relate to this guy, I'm going to ignore a lot of illegality so that I can get to him and I can help him, win more, lose less, and not in a way that allows him to beat us, but in a way that allows him to say, "Hey, I'm so glad I met you. You've been a real advantage to me. I'm willing to do this and this that are beneficial to you and your people." And so, if I can broker that relationship where I can push down danger, push down instability, then that to me, the juice is worth the squeeze. And that's where my license to kill is different, because now I'm making decisions in that moment that would not sit well with my commander. Whoever the general is in the area, if he saw me working, he might be like, "You're not allowed to do that." But I'd say, "Am I?" Because I just did it. And in this region now, I'm a little more important, you're a little more safe, and that guy's a little less worried about blowing us up. And if I can continue to improve that relationship, is that not the goal? And then he'd be like, "God dang it." And those guys all know that, by the way. They all understand, but very few people can communicate it, and we don't know each other. So when a general comes around, I'm probably not going to even be there because I'm not doing my job, and I can't have a general walking around because the general is it's like a giant magnet, and he draws all this attention. And so when they're there, they suck all the air out of the room, and now I can still work in that environment, but it kind of ties me up. I'd rather be outside of that building or 2 blocks away or whatever, and doing the things that I normally do, because that's more important than me sitting next to somebody who has a lot of rank. I don't need proximity to the rank to help me do my job. I probably need more distance from it.
I see. Well, man, this is all very interesting, but the explosions are missing. Hollywood misses the explosions. It's not sexy enough. I was thinking about Pablo Escobar, right? Because from what I remember, from what I saw, the TV shows that I saw from Pablo Escobar, right? He was always very, very likable. He was very like a politician, right? Everyone loved him. But then there was the explosions, and boom, there you go. We have Hollywood. But that's not real life spy work. Man, that's so interesting. So I need to ask you, Pete, how come you're allowed to tell us all of that? Isn't that supposed to be like top secret information, like your techniques and real life spy stuff?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the techniques I made myself, and so I've declassified them because I made them, and a lot of them are just techniques. I'm just describing a sales job. I'm just describing a reporter's job in a lot of ways, right? And so a lot of this stuff is just open knowledge. Of course, I want to curry favor with people that I want something from. Of course, I want to go build a network on how to go read a book about how to build a network. All this stuff is going to be in there. So the practices and the techniques, they aren't classified. I can tell you about a Mad Minute. I could break down everything that you would want to say in a Mad Minute, and I can tell you none of that's classified. It's all open and known. You read a book, read a manual, and you can find out about it. What is classified is if I met you and we had our Mad Minute and we were going to talk about all these security things really fast, and it was encoded in a way that we could talk in the open. Like if we had a bona fides to meet, right? And I came up to you and said, "Hey, where's a good place right here to get coffee?" And you're like, "Oh, go over to Larry's. He's got the best coffee in town." And I'm like, "Which flavor, which one should I get?" And you're like, "Get the pumpkin spice latte." Okay, well, we just communicated that, yes, the meeting is on. Yes, we're going to go to Larry's. Yes, and so even though nobody else would know that, okay, so that information before that meeting happens, and probably after that meeting while it happens for a little while, that information is classified. We don't want anybody else to know that's the real conversation that we're having, right? So that coded message that sounds very normal and innocuous, the elements of that, that's classified. While that operation goes on, nobody else needs to know that except for me, Larry, or whoever the guy is. So that's what's classified. The actual techniques a lot of times aren't. I'd say all about surveillance, and all that's going to be obvious, and so it's not classified because it's just known. You just read a book about surveillance and you understand that wherever you would sit to surveil somebody, you need to turn around and look around and be like, where would I sit behind me to watch me? That's counter surveillance. outside of that ring, there's counter surveillance. So I go out to operate, I do a surveillance route, and I try to detect any kind of coverage on me, right? Well, if I have a team, they'll be outside of my route and they'll watch me on my route to see if someone's watching me. And if someone wanted to get even crazier, they would go outside the guys outside my route, and they would. So then you're not going counter surveillance, right? All of that stuff is real. It sounds crazy, but if you're trying to see things, then you need to understand that someone can be watching you at all times. You always have to. Here's a big thing that I like to talk about when I'm trying to train someone in spying, or talk about, to give you guys an idea. You're always asking yourself, who's running who? Am I the source or am I the handler? And if you don't know, you're probably pretty close to having a good source, because they've got to give so much up to you that they're valuable, but you have to do the same. And you're always kind of doing that dance on, is this dangerous? Am I now being run? Have they curried favor with me? And so you're always doing this, who's watching who, what's going on here? Is the world that I'm living in the real world? It's very crazy, right? God. So all of that stuff goes into this melange of spying. There are no coincidences, except for there are coincidences, and so if you start looking at every coincidence as being a plan against you, you can make yourself crazy, unless it's a plan against you. And so none of that, all of that is just stuff that's in the ether that you can look up through any kind of way, and it's not classified, right? It's when I talk about the commander's intent, we'd like to go to, I don't know, let's say that we're both in Germany and we're going to go to Saarbrücken and we're going to run an op on the mayor. Well, that would be classified, right? Like, because, we've got a target, it's international, there's law involved, there's, all these things are going on, and we're going to go do something with that mayor. Well, yeah, we don't want people to know about that in advance, and probably not afterwards. And so we'll never talk about that, and that's the classified part, is what were we doing? What did we do? What happened because of it? What's next? All that kind of stuff is classified, but it has to be very specific. What's in that Mad Minute has to be specific. That was classified. But if you use the same basic Mad Minute in 100 different places with the exact same format, talking about coffee with somebody, well, then, the fact that you use coffee shops as your primary meet place on the first or second meet, that's not classified. You're going to say, oh yeah, I used to love using coffee shops, and it's really easy to communicate in the open, if it's dangerous or not to go meet at a coffee shop. Like, that's not classified. But when and how and all that is.
Oh my God, Pete, it's such an insane world. I had no idea. I feel like I'm getting paranoid just hearing all those.
Good. Yeah. Well, am I really talking to you in the clear, or am I running an op on you? Oh my gosh.
Oh right? My God. Pete, I have so many more questions, but we're going to leave that for after the sponsor. We're going to be right back, everyone.